speaking of films that I do want to see again, though, you want to talk about our next one?
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse, baby. All right, so you mind if I start?
Go for it.
When I saw the trailer for this film, I'm going to be real with you, I wasn't interested. I was very skeptical. I was very skeptical about this film. I was very skeptical.
You loved it, though.
Well, hold on. I was going to be like, I don't know, Sony, they just made the Emoji Movie. Like, I don't know how I'm feeling about this. And I'm like, you know what?
They spent a whole year for like a scene or something like that in this movie. And then they're like, we need more animators. 60 animators, right? And they still weren't going to make it on time. They're like, we need more than that. 142 is how many they ended with.
Dang, dude, that's crazy.
I know.
That's the thing. My point was going to be, I was very skeptical about it. And then it was getting some good reviews. I'm like, you know what? I still went in skeptical. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. Fucking loved it, dude.
I fucking loved it, too.
Loved it.
I loved the shit out of this movie.
I can't believe it, dude. It was so fucking good, this film. I cannot believe how much I actually love this film because we're on the verge of, I don't think we're on the verge of superhero fatigue, but Spider-Man fatigue, that's something I can see.
And they noticed that.
They noticed that, and it's so refreshing to see an original take on Spider-Man. To see an original, fun take on Spider-Man. See something we've never seen before. Which Homecoming sort of did that, but I felt like what Homecoming was missing was mythology and pathos. Because they sort of just like...
They skipped it because we've seen it so many times.
Because we've seen it so many times, but I feel like in doing that, they sort of lost the essence of the character a little bit.
Yeah, because I don't even know how he started. I think they mentioned in passing that he got bit by...
Yeah.
That might have been a joke. I can't tell.
And they mention Uncle Ben in like one line in that. And they don't even mention him by name. They just mention like, oh, after everything May has been through, you know, and what she lost, I can't, whatever. I'm like, that's it? Like, we don't want to see the same origin story again. Not to...
And you see the same origin story like 6 times, but they're like, this is the last time you're going to hear about it and stuff. And they keep saying that. And it's like, it's got wit to it. It
has so much wit. The comedy is so good, but it's balanced so well with the very real drama. Drama I was surprised to see in a kid's animated film.
Yes.
In all honesty.
And it's for kids. You got like the whole Deadpool meta type thing, but without the unsavory jokes. And just, like I said, a lot more wit to it.
Yes. This is obviously based off of the Spider-Verse storyline from the comic books, which in the comic books had like 100 Spider-Man from all these different universes together. So they picked and choose which ones they wanted. And it's really cool to see someone like Spider-Ham in there. They chose to put Spider-Ham in there, and throwing that character can really offset the tone a lot.
That's something I thought of, and I was like, that might be too much for some audiences.
But they somehow, in my opinion, I could see that, because there were parts where it'd be something very serious, and then it would cut to Spider-Ham, and I'd be like...
That kind of ruined it. Yeah,
it kind of ruined it.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I was like, okay. But I think for the most part, though, it's balanced really well, and every character sort of had their own charisma that I really loved about it, especially Spider-Man Noir, which is probably one of my favorites. Nicolas Cage. It was so good. Oh my gosh, I loved it. And
you'd see some like emotional beats for characters that you wouldn't expect to, like somebody like Penny Parker.
Yeah, the anime Spider-Man. Which another thing too I want to say is that it's very cool that almost every Spider-Man has their own art style.
Yes, in the same scene.
Yes, like Spider-Ham is like the old 1930s, 40s rubber tube animation, like the Looney Tunes animation, and then Penny Parker is anime. You know, super cool.
Yeah. Now I gotta say one thing before I get into how much I like this animation style.
Yeah.
Is that at the beginning I was kind of like, oh no, don't do this to me, because it seemed like there had this intense blur every time they had a light source, and it was really like it was giving me a headache.
You know what that's called? Chromatic aberration is actually what that's called. It's like kind of like the 3D effect, sort of like with like the red and blue sort of like blur outside of that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it wasn't just the light source though. It was also the like a stylistic choice to show Miles in the front and center, and then they have like the generic faces in the back, blurred out, and it's kind of like a shallow focus where they try to just show him, and everybody else is like blurred in the back, and that was kind of giving me a headache. But thankfully they got rid of that by like the last 15 minutes, almost for a story reason that they got rid of it, which is kind of cool.
It's kind of like a comic book come to life with the animation style.
I
will say, you know, I like animated films, I do, but you know I'm not huge on them.
Sure.
This is probably one of the best animation and most creative animation I've seen in a long time.
I think it's the best animation. I think it is. They even have the little like dot effects and stuff that they would have in the print pages. They had like the boxes. Everything looked like it was every frame looked like a comic panel, but they would also have like boxes in there.
Yes.
Like additionally.
Yeah, like dialogue boxes sometimes and thought bubbles and like even real panels.
And when he would touch something, like there would be like an effect coming off of it.
A sound effect. And even some of them are funny. Like I was watching a review and you know when Spider-Man hands Miles the bagel and he's like, oh, switch. And then and he throws the bagel at some dude's head.
Yep.
It says bagel. Like when it hits the head, instead of like pow or bang, it's like bagel. It was really funny.
Yeah. Almost every visual joke landed for me. Some of them weren't always there when it came to like dialogue. I'm like, they're reaching a little bit too far here. But every visual one was like perfect.
And like I said, people are on the verge of Spider-Man fatigue because there's been so much Spider-Man going on, and that's what I was nervous about. But this film keeps Spider-Man fresh, not only by introducing us to a new Spider-Man, Miles Morales, but also giving us kind of a Peter Parker we haven't seen before. Someone, I mean, we're sort of used to seeing him down on his luck, but not this much.
You get to see both. You get to see both of them. You get to see the perfect version of him, and then the hobo version of him.
Yes, and that's great. He even mentions that. He's like, "Why did you stick me with like the hobo overweight version of Spider-Man?" Like, oh, it's so good. But I really like how it was almost like a father-son, mentor-mentee relationship between Peter Parker and Miles Morales.
Great relationship between almost every character. You got the Peter Parker one, his dad, his uncle. There's some really good connections there that almost brought me to tears in some areas.
Same. Honestly, I was at a 4 for most of this movie, 4 out of 5. And then I got home and I'm like, what bad thing, what's keeping this from a 5, in all honesty? And I couldn't really think of, I have nitpicks, which I'll get into, but those nitpicks were not enough to really drag it down for me. So I was like, I have to give this a 5. I gave it a 5 out of 5. It is some of the most beautiful animation I've ever seen, with really creative dialogue, witty, snappy. I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it too. I do have additional, it's just nitpicks and stuff.
Yeah,
like
same
that.
here, same
here. Nothing major.
You want get into one of your nitpicks?
Well, I mean, I basically just said it with the animation style. It's new. It's a new style. I don't imagine it's going to be perfect first try. There's got to be trial and error.
It's almost like 2D with like a 3D element to it. It's hard to explain.
Some of it, the way the motion was, it almost felt stop motion.
Yes.
It's because it just felt so disjointed and stuff when a character would move and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's because you had to animate the hand drawn part of it. You have the CGI and stuff over it, but you had to have the animated part move with it and stuff like that. And it didn't always work for me in that area.
Yeah. Okay, my nitpick is somewhat similar. Well, two things. First thing is, I don't know if this is a spoiler. I don't know. They never explain. Well, I guess it's not a spoiler because Spider-Man gets bit by a spider. And Miles Morales is the new Spider-Man, so he also gets bit by a spider. That's not a spoiler, right?
Sure.
To say he gets bit by a spider? Okay. They never explain where that spider came from.
Not at all.
And that's,
all they did was show a number on it, like it was a test subject or something.
Yeah,
like
so
that.
I was a bit confused. That was a minor nitpick. I'm like, they never explained where that spider came from. And there was also glitchy.
They never explained a lot of things, but that it wasn't a big deal to me because if you want, it didn't really explain how that shit worked and stuff that. Right. Why these characters in particular were coming out and stuff, but they kind of chalked it up to cartoon logic.
Yeah, fine with they obviously with that machine they built it, but it would have been cool to see them test the machine out, and then there was a spider dangled between the machine, and then the machine contaminated the spider or something, and then I thought maybe because it was glitching too, because
that would also show that it's the same, the spider from another. It works. I don't know because a spider it contained the same qualities of the spider that Peter Parker was.
Yes, and again, that's such a very minor nitpick.
It's a lot of minor nitpicks.
And another minor nitpick I have was, I want to know what you think about this because I think Kingpin's design was a bit much.
It was way overboard. He looked like the Blob.
It was huge. Holy crap! There was one part where he took up half the screen talking to somebody.
How does he get indoors?
Yeah. It was really funny too when there's flashbacks with him with his family and he's wearing like normal clothes like with his family and he's just like this giant fucking like tank. I was like, okay, I think you could have dialed it back just a touch. Okay, you don't have to have his head coming out of his chest. Like have his head on his shoulders. That was a bit. It was a bit much, but other than that,
yeah. And like you said about the whole like. Peter Porker sometimes ruining the emotional beat, like not ruining it, but like it's like
it kind of takes you out of it.
It kind of takes you out of the immersion a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's little stuff here and there, but overall, I think this is a great kids movie. It does not talk down to them.
Yes.
It's witty. It's got
real.
It's a
raw,
fresh spin on familiar territory.
Yes,
and I really like the music choices. They even had some, like they had Vince Staples make the song for like the trailer and stuff like that. That's a great song, and it's like censored, so it's like genuine like hip hop, and it's like that's what I want to see and stuff like that, not watered down bullshit.
Right. Was he the one who did the end credits where they said shit? Did you stay past the credits, by the way?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, because there was like a song at the end credits that actually said like shit a couple times, and I was like, oh wow, okay.
Oh, I actually didn't notice it.
I don't know
must
which
have been
one
talking to my friends about it.
I'm not a fan of Post Malone or whatever. His song also plays. Hip hop is huge in the film, which I liked.
Yeah.
There's
because he's like a kind of like a Banksy character, and he likes the streets and stuff like that.
Yes, they even said, there was even that joke where I laughed.
I think it's a Banksy.
I think it's like, oh, it's got to be a Banksy.
Yeah,
I laughed so hard at that, no one else laughed because they didn't get it.
Yeah, I thought it was funny too.
I thought it was funny. You're right, and when there are consequences to these characters. There are in a lot of kids' films. There's a lot of cop-outs with stuff like real adult things, like, I don't know, death, for example.
Sure. And
for this film, there's consequences to it. Like, when something happens, it happens.
Oh, yeah.
And that can be intense for some kids.
There's no turning back.
There's no turning back. There's no other way of showing it. And it takes risks in doing that, and I think it paid off. Because like you said, it doesn't talk down to kids.
It does not talk down to them.
And this film can be enjoyed by everybody, and that's what I loved about it. Also, the end credit scene, by the way, fucking hilarious. I laughed at that so
I was like, wow, they threw the meme in there.
Yeah, they actually did it.
Wow. And that was played. That guy was played by Oscar Isaac, right?
I didn't know that until today. I could not believe that. That's another thing I want to bring up too. The freaking voice acting in this is so good.
It's good, yeah.
Every character has like real emotion that's coming through their voice, which is really, really nice.
There's one character, one actor in particular. I'm like, wow, I can't believe he brought that. This is actually really good for him, considering his past efforts and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think I might know what you're talking about.
Okay, fuck you. You're gonna show me. You're showing me like other. Oh my god.
That's why I gotta get an Apple phone.
It's literally just showing like Tobey Maguire, Drake Bell because he plays Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's like that's not what I wanted. You fuck. Brian Tyree Henry.
Yes, that's who I was thinking of too. I had no idea that was him.
He did real good.
He was the dad.
He was so good as the dad.
Because his voice is so different than that in like his other works.
Yeah, he's like he has no passion whatsoever in like Atlanta.
Or like in Get Out, he has that kind of high pitched like raspy like, yeah man, and that's crazy,
That's not.
That sounded Mexican when I did, but you get my voice.
That's totally not what he. So I guess he does have some range.
He has some range there.
But I really liked him too.
I could not believe that was him. I was like, wow, dang.
And then Mahershala Ali's in there. Oh, he's great. So I love it.
Did you know one of the Spider-Man? I won't spoil which Spider-Man, but one of the Spider-Man was Chris Pine.
Yep.
I was like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yep.
So yeah, I love this movie too. It's not a 10, and I can also say that. Fuck that. It's
What?
It's a high 9.
High 9. Okay, I got you.
I fucking loved it.
It's so good. And again, I was skeptical because I'm like, another Spider-Man by the same studio that did the Emoji Movie. I'm like, I don't know about this. I was proven way wrong.
They put a lot of time into this one.
Yes, they had a lot to prove with it. Probably they had a lot to prove with it. They're like, we have some bad flops, so we need a good one, and they got one.
It's a good answer to fatigue of superhero movies, because it definitely doesn't feel like any of the other ones.
It doesn't.
And also, I know this is being said like all over the place, but I'm gonna say it too. It's one of the best superhero movies, I think.
Oh yes, it's like I said. I actually said this in my Stardust review. If someone told me this is their favorite Spider-Man film or even superhero film,
it is my favorite Spider-Man film.
I wouldn't agree, but I wouldn't argue. I could totally see why. I can 100% see why it would be someone's favorite. It's close for me. Spider-Man 2 is my number one, but this film, like, man, this might be a close second, in all honesty. It might be.
I'm glad that you liked it as much as you did, because I was thinking that you were going to like it enough, but I was almost certain that, like, the Peter Porker and, like, the anime Spider-Girl was going to be too much for you.
Yeah, see, that's another reason I was skeptical, too. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this, but I really did like it. However, okay, I'm going to say something a little controversial here. Okay. I'm going to say something controversial.
Here we go. The old Niko controversy.
I know you're not going to disagree. I know you're not going to agree. And I know a lot of people might not like this comment, but I was thinking this during the movie. And then I'm like, I don't know if I should mention that in the podcast, because I don't know, it's just not that big of a thing. And then when me and my friend were talking about it during the credits, my friend said the exact same thing I was thinking.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, I can officially say I'm not the only one who thinks this way.
Okay.
As great as the animation is, as great as it is, and it's probably some of the best animation I've ever seen.
Sure.
I couldn't help but think to myself throughout some of the film, how cool would this be to see in live action? I couldn't help but think that, in all honesty. I'm just being real.
Okay.
I'm just being real, and I was thinking that throughout the film.
I mean, I'm sure it would have been cool, but like I think it's just better this way.
I'm not going to argue with that, but I kept thinking that. I'm like, man, this would be so cool to see in live action, like during some of the fight scenes or whatever. And then, I just kept quiet during the credits, and then my friend leaned over and he's like, man, that was a good movie. He's like, how cool would it have been to see in live action, though? And I was like, thank you. I was thinking that too.
That's just you and your not dislike of animation, but you're not.
But I'm more partial to live action, basically. It's my partiality to live action.
I appreciate animation.
I love animation,
It's such a great art form and stuff like that. And somebody who I tried to be like an artist and stuff like that. Yeah. I tried my best at it. Didn't work out for me.
And I love animation. Don't get me wrong. I understand it's such an art form. And
to take a fucking year to make a scene.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
A commitment.
It's a lot. And I'm not putting down their work in any way. I'm not trying to, say that their work wasn't worth it or anything, but the animation is probably the best animation I've ever seen. I'm just being real. It was so good. It was so good. It was like a comic book come to life.
Vastly different than anything I've ever seen.
Yes. Even something like now, it's hard to differentiate between Disney and Pixar films because there's not enough differentiating them.
Yeah.
They're both 3D animation.
3D.
Back in the day, Pixar was the only one doing that, and
it took Disney almost an entire decade to also do the same
thing. Well, they had to acquire Pixar too on top of it. So they had to partner with Pixar. So Pixar's still its own thing.
So now I'm wondering what's Pixar going to do next? Because they got to one up. They got to do something that's going to take another 10 years for them to reach.
Well, that's the thing too. Is that's why I really like this film too. Is DreamWorks animation kind of looks the same as like DreamWorks, Illumination, Pixar, Disney. They all sort of look the same in terms of their 3D animation.
And now Sony has something that is so much different.
Yes,
than any
they had something so different, which is weird because they basically did the same thing with the Emoji Movie. It was the same exact crap.
Yep.
But then they changed it up completely and actually did something different. Like this is a huge.
However, this is very circumstantial. You can't really use this everywhere.
That's true.
You can only use it for comic book stuff.
That's very true. That's very true. So I want to see a sequel to this movie.
I want to see a sequel too.
I can't wait. And I hope they bring in a certain character at the end credits that I won't talk about because it's a spoiler, but that would be great to see that character come back too. The dialogue in that end credit scene was so good though. It was so good.
Yeah.
That's it for us guys. Again, 5 out of 5 for me, 9 out of 9, high 9 out of 10 for Tyler, and
it's been good.